The liberal media. You see, now there's a really strange creature. Now, it's very clear that there is a liberal and a conservative media. I mean, this is something that exists. These are two separate collections of interests within the capitalist class. So it's not like this is a new thing or something. But what's really interesting is is watching the late night talk shows. Now, Donald Trump has basically said, "Well, we know what we're going to do for Afghanistan. We're going to come up with a new plan to deal with the fact that essentially they're losing, and that the Taliban has now gains more ground. There's more ground now than they've basically had for a very long time. Essentially, the United States is losing the Afghan war." You know, the whole slaughtering of Afghan people usually isn't a very good way of going about that, but, you know, that's never stopped them before. So, basically now they're looking for a new strategy, and that strategy is to enter into negotiations, which they previously said they would not do because they don't negotiate with terrorists, and they consider the Taliban a terrorist organization. Okay. So basically now they've gone back on their word saying that they won't negotiate until, well, the one exception was if they had significant military gains. Now they don't have significant military gains. They do have significant military losses. They cannot hold on to Afghanistan. They are not going to be able to hold on to Afghanistan, and they never will. Let's just face the truth right here. So what they want to do is engage in some kind of negotiation with the Taliban for some kind of peace agreement or a shared power kind of thing. And then the U.S. will say, hey, look, we ended the war. We entered into peace agreements, pull out of the country. And then like 2 weeks later, the Taliban runs the place. Kind of like what happened with Vietnam. So, of course, the liberal media is coming out and essentially attacking President Trump because he suggested sending more forces to Afghanistan so they don't go back on their word. Now, I'm of the opinion that the United States should just pull out of Afghanistan altogether. But what's significant here, what's important, is listening to how the liberal media handles the situation. Trevor Noah from The Daily Show said, oh, well, you know, that's all America knows is sending more troops. Well, I wonder where that kind of attitude out of The Daily Show was when Obama was escalating troops inside of Afghanistan. Or at least when it was being discussed. Where were those words? Stephen Colbert of The Late Show had a similar sentiment, decrying that there should be an increase in the number of troops being sent to Afghanistan. And sorry, man, you had a comedy show going on the entire time that Obama was in office. And where was your statement? Where was that kind of attitude when Obama was doing it? Absolutely nowhere. It's amazing how this whole big, oh, we're liberals, we're anti-war, we're against the slaughter of innocent people, you know, we're against George Bush and his damn wars, Iraq was a lie, and Afghanistan, well, we're not really going to denounce it because we kind of want it there, kind of attitude, instantly disappeared the second Obama got into office. And now, amazingly, now that when a Republican is in office, all of a sudden they're critical of it again. It's amazing. So essentially, it's very clear the United States is not going to win the Afghan war. They've basically already lost. This is like, in a manner of speaking, another Vietnam. This is not like Vietnam. That was a very, very different war. It was a very different time in America. But they are similar in respect to that the United States is not going to win. They will come to some kind of peace agreement, act like they won, pull out of the country, and then the enemy is just going to take over in 2 weeks. That's exactly where I see this going. It's really amazing watching the liberal media flip-flop like this. Watching them jump around. Oh, well, it's this. And, oh, well, then it's that. And all depending on who it is that's actually in power at the time. And this is truly a magnificent thing. And this really reminds us that if we are to understand that imperialism is the primary contradiction, you know, at least if you accept the theoretical writings of Mao, or even to a large degree Lenin as well, then this issue has to be number one. And this should remind you why you cannot work within the Democratic Party to fight the war, because they don't actually believe in ending it. I mean, I could point out Alexandria Cortez. I could point out the whole thing where she was denouncing Israel's slaughter of Palestinians as a genocide and it's horrible and should be stopped. Win the nomination. Oh, well, I kind of, there's two sides to that genocide story, kind of liberal bullshit. So, I mean, this really should remind us. I mean, it should not be surprising in any way, shape, or form that the liberal media is full of hypocrisy. The same thing for the conservative media. They're both out for particular individual interests, and even collective ones within the capitalist class itself, and will demonstrate that because they're not about principle. These are not principled positions that people hold to try to achieve a particular objective, and that would be particularly ending all contradictions between people. They're out for a particular set of economic interests, and thus this always drives them into hypocrisy. This always drives them into doing things that they themselves had actually denounced, thus continuing the problem. Not in the same thing as doing it as ending the problem, but continuing the problem for their own benefit. And that reminds us why we simply cannot, should not, ever trust the Democratic Party, or liberals for that matter. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.